Hey everybody, how y'all doing today? This is Counselor Curtis.
And Jimmy Doane.
This is the Jimmy Doane Show.
Jimmy Doane Show, that's right.
We are live. We're coming to you live 2 times a week these days. 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Sunday and Wednesday. And we've been pretty good about it, although I can see right now we're having some technical difficulty with the live stream, but hopefully it'll be up there for your fun and enjoyment regularly.
Why is it blinking red?
I don't know. We are recording, but it doesn't like our stream.
Is our Wi-Fi weak or
Do
something?
you want me to try a different way or something?
No,
Just keep it going.
yeah.
See how it goes.
Maybe it'll click back on.
It very well could. So, we are the OG Libertarian Podcast. We are the most orange podcast on the internet. That's just a fact, ladies and gentlemen. Statistical fact.
Yeah, well, there are other conservative podcasts, but they're still, neoconservative type people, all for war and everything. Other than Tom Woods. Tom Woods is pretty much a libertarian. I like his stuff.
And they're not nearly as orange as we are. That's all.
What is orange?
That's our characteristic. Immutable characteristic.
Okay, if you say so. Are you relating to Trump's hair or something? Or?
Oh shit! I didn't mean to do that.
No, I was going to say. Wait a minute.
All right, hey. Today we are going straight to the border.
Straight to the border.
That's right, because when last we left our heroes, of course, Trump's special forces were still conducting raiding parties on the border, snatching the children, snatching the babies. But as we recall, right when we ended our podcast last time, he issued the executive order expanding the snatching to whole families.
Right.
And that way the families could be kept together. So...
well, good luck, of course. One of the little minor problems, they got no place to keep them.
Well, did you notice that in the order? That the order said space available.
Right. Well, let me tell you something.
There is no space, like you said.
Why don't they haul the FEMA trailers down there?
Well, exactly.
There's these thousands of these FEMA trailers all over the country. Bring them down.
I fully agree with you. I would say...
You might have a little infrastructure problem, with water and stuff, but that stuff...
Exactly. That's all you would need to do.
That's all you would need to do. You could bring... Certainly there's electricity and plenty of it.
Right.
And, you could bring a couple of hoses in there for their water.
That's what you do. You'd set up a little tent city, kind of like what's going on outside of Jordan right now.
Oh, what's that down? How about downtown here in Dignity Village? We have a little tent city here in Gainesville.
People could just stream on in.
Yeah.
Now the order, I guess, it's kind of an interesting thing. It doesn't really do anything, but it does at the same time. If they want to do stuff about it, they can do stuff about it. That is, they can keep the families together or not.
Well, it's not only that. What the idea was, of course, to diffuse the pictures,
the media
and of course they had what was fascinating. I'm sure that everybody by now has seen the Time magazine cover photo, or Photoshop, and it was a little girl who, from Honduras, whatever it was, had been separated from her mother for about 60 seconds.
Right.
And was crying because she was 2 years old and she'd been actually put down while they searched her mother or whatever it was. Nobody was separated from anything, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, they took that little iconic picture, and she was there on the front. The whole cover was red. She's standing there looking up at Trump, giant Trump. And basically the implication is Trump is the one who is taking the children away from their parents, dividing up families.
Yeah, clearly.
Well, not the backlash, but the lefties. They go on. Talk about hyperbole and hypertension and hyperventilating on all of this stuff about how Trump is doing this horrible. Well, anyway, he did. I just read in today's paper that he's authorized somehow to build 15,000 new beds or something like that.
Okay.
Well, it's going to take him a little while to do that. My solution is the FEMA trailers, which they're already there. Not down there, but they. How long does it take to drag a FEMA trailer
3 days
from Louisiana to Texas? It's next door.
Right.
So anyway, some of the people are still, of course, as I've always said, Trump could be walking on water while curing cancer, and there are people that are going to say he's still a poop. He's still.
Yeah, well, I thought it was very interesting the way that they put it. Like on late nights, Colbert said, "Oh, he caved. It's like, so what? Like he didn't care about kids before, but now he does
because of the outrage,
because of the media outrage.
And of course, it's
like if he's a turd, he's a turd. It doesn't matter.
So anyway, the wrenching story of this is one of the guys that doesn't like Trump. The wrenching story of migrant children being separated from their parents at the U.S.-Mexico border has unfolded differently. Trump has been forced to play defense. It's not just because politics is cruel, inhuman, ugly stain on our country's moral integrity. It's all of those things, but Trump has done plenty of ugly things. What's different this time is a handful of times Trump has found himself losing, and here are pictures. As Jake Tapper tweeted on Wednesday, it's not an accident that the U.S. government is making it so difficult for journalists, lawmakers, lawyers, and others to bring you images and firsthand accounts from those separated parents and children. They're hiding the truth from you. Well, of course, the government always does that. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is nothing new. Everything the government does is in total secrecy, practically.
Well, sure. I mean,
of course, we did get the pictures out. We did. I mean, here we are at the border, and there's pictures out there again of the little girl. Again, deceptive picture.
Oh yeah, that was totally fake news. That was the fakest.
It was the fakest, and it was just it was that
totally, little girl never got taken from mom.
No,
and everything. But it's indicative of the situation. Although, I mean, you know how I feel. I mean, from my perspective, crossing the border, while technically a crime, and certainly any government could hold that crime, they could have that a death penalty offense. From my perspective, it should be the lightest of offenses, and we should have pretty much an open border policy for people who are willing to walk through the front door, get their picture taken, records searched, fingerprints, that kind of stuff,
and dodge the paintballs.
Well, that's the alternative
we talked about last time.
Right, exactly. But otherwise, obviously, you do have to have border enforcement at some level. You don't want people just to be able to walk willy-nilly across.
Well, again, the one way to do it is you get no benefits. You know, you
right. Well, it's a waiver. That's what we talked about. Our solution was waive your benefits. Come on in.
The problem with that is it's in the law that all kids have to go to school, so the school is going to be ballooned. You know, in some communities now, the price of schooling has gone. The public schooling has gone through the ceiling.
Well, what you do, is you set up, like you said, a little FEMA village. Mm-hmm. You bring the FEMA trailers down there, and you say, "Hey, where are all our teachers? All our teachers come over here. You are now teaching on these days or whatever. Okay, who are our engineers? You know, hook up some water, get some freaking electricity in here. Let's make it a village." You turn it into something. We've got plenty of land out there.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And what they're really seeking is like police protection, which we could organize pretty quickly, I would think. And so,
as far as I'm concerned, they could protect. They could have their own police force.
Well, that's what I mean. You could, you have to start off a little bit, but either way.
Well, one of the things that I find interesting is of course Mrs. Jimmy and some other people are calling this an invasion, and this is actually an invasion by aliens. Well, of course, it's interesting because this has divided the country.
Yeah.
Okay. But what's interesting, one of the fabulous movies of all time, which you will never be able to find it, I probably have the only last copy, is called It's called Lathe of Heaven. It was on like once on the PBS channel years and years ago. Lathe of Heaven. The book is there. It's by Ursula K. Le Guin. You can still find that, but. During part of the thing, what the premise of this story was, this guy could dream and it would change reality. Mm-hmm. Well, the psychiatrist that he was going to figured this out, and so he had a way to put him to sleep, and then give him a post sleep suggestion to change the world. Mm-hmm.
Intersleep suggestion.
Pardon me.
He would implant the dream into him.
Right. Well, not the dream, but the solution, so to speak.
Right.
And one of the ways that they, first of all, he wanted to eliminate racism. So the guy woke up from his dream and everybody's gray. Mm-hmm. Everybody in the whole world, is gray. Well, of course, there were some problems with that. So he put him to sleep. Anyway, at one point, he put him to sleep. And, I want to unite the world. Mm-hmm. And what had happened? There was literally an alien invasion. I mean, aliens came down and suddenly the whole world was united against the aliens. Well, what's interesting is we're having an alien invasion, and yet it's dividing us.
Well, that's because it's not an alien invasion. And that is actually the dividing point, is whether or not it's an alien invasion. And the difference is, an alien invasion, they're coming to kill you. They're coming to take your stuff and wipe you out. And these people are not doing that. They are coming to cooperate. They're coming to participate.
Well, unless they're part of the Group 13 or whatever.
MS-13, that's just a gang.
Yeah.
And look,
what about trafficking, child trafficking and stuff like that?
Well, look, you would cut down on that stuff if you let the people come in.
Yeah.
But okay, what are you trying to suggest, that the open border has some impact on child trafficking or something? Or
this is where you get into the fake news and there's very
the implication. Yeah.
Well, one of the things you find out about the mother of the little child, she basically had kidnapped that child from her father and brothers. I mean, and come over, here. She wasn't escaping anything. There was no domestic abuse or anything. And she'd been here before. She had been deported in 2013.
Okay.
This was her second time coming through.
Okay. Well, so
this is according to Stefan Molyneux, by the way. He has a big podcast on this.
Okay. Well, so drawing the worst inferences from that, we could assume that at this point, some people are trying to cross the borders with children in order to gain sympathy or some sort of extra asylum or something like that. Well, if my solution were in place and we're more open, you wouldn't need that. The kids certainly could probably just walk right in because they're not going to have any records or anything like that. Now you say the gangs. Yes, Mrs. Jimmy is right. Look, the people who go into a new country are not the well-settled people from the country they came from. Obviously, they are the wretched refuse. They're the dregs of the society. But even the dregs of any society are really not that bad, and oftentimes they're tough, as we talked about before.
Right. You don't leave your Spanish-speaking family, whatever it is, and walk 1,000 miles to go to some country where you don't understand anything. Unless you expect to make some kind of a contribution.
That's right. And these people are coming to participate. Yeah, sure. They will get in here, and a disproportionate number of them will commit robberies and crimes and stuff like that as the adjustment period from where they came from to where they are now sets in. Mm-hmm. But in generally speaking, they will contribute per person more to society than they absorb, so long as they're not on the dole on this incredible gift-giving situation that we've arranged for the majority of our citizens.
Yeah.
Because obviously, at this point, since 50% of the people are only 50% of the people are paying taxes at this point.
Right.
There's a lot of people who are freeloading, and the people who come in from on the poor end are going to be in that group.
Well, it's interesting though. They're
relatively speaking.
Right. Well, one of the things that is interesting is that the people that come here to do the jobs that we won't do, so to speak, and that is the fruit pickers and these are the migrant laborers in California, for instance, or even in the central United States. These are the people that actually do the hard, daily breaking work. What's interesting is somebody did a measurement, and I don't know what it is, but collectively they send like $14 billion back to their families in the host and where the country they came from. Mm-hmm. Well, that's a lot of dough.
Sure.
Or they're being paid enough that they can actually support their family in another country.
Yeah, it works. Coming over here works.
That's right. I mean,
it's a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, you and of course it's if they weren't economically viable in the fields picking tomatoes or strawberries or whatever it is, then they wouldn't be able to send that kind of money home. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the things that is, and of course a lot of the people the farmers especially are saying, if you don't let these people through, we're dead. Right. We're going to have rotting fruit and vegetables all over the place.
Yeah, they don't have robots that do that yet.
Not yet. No, some of the stuff is just immune to robots. I mean, a lot of it you can do. I mean, I've seen, for instance, one that's kind of cute is they've got this thing. It's this huge tractor-like thing. It has a net on it, and it has got this claw in the front, and it grabs a hold of the tree and shakes it.
Mm-hmm.
and the nuts all come down into the into the net, and then it swings over and dumps them into the. I mean, I thought, when you think about what it would take to get your walnut, whatever the tree is, I don't know, almonds or whatever,
right?
Whatever you think about that, how many people are quote put out of work, and of course they that's not a problem. Anyway, I think something like strawberries or something that they can't do. Robot haven't figured out.
Well, there's a bunch of them still. They're working on 10 or 15 years. They'll be there. Did you see they got a new gourmet burger automatic making machine and store opening in San Fran? Gourmet.
Yeah.
Okay, so they're going to charge for it.
Yeah.
Apparently, the machine costs a few mil to make.
But still, no more labor costs.
Well, I mean, you got to repair the machine,
right,
and keep it clean and clean up the store. And collect the money.
Right.
But you're right.
Credit card.
Well, yeah, and all kinds of ways.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's like the old Horn and Hardart. You put your credit card, you come up with the menu.
Mm-hmm.
I want one of these, and one of these. I mean, all the menu people today, we were over here eating at Ballyhoo, well, almost every place now, they carry their little iPads around.
Right. Well,
and it goes right to the...
Should just be an app on your phone. I don't know why they have to have a special machine. I would just have a website. Go to our website and place your order.
Well, yeah, but I mean, what they do and of course, I think you could do that now with Domino's.
Yeah,
I'm not sure,
but
I'm pretty sure you can. But anyway, I'm pretty sure. But as I say, almost all of the servers these days, they take your order on an iPad.
Mm-hmm.
Or something similar, and of course the hospitals have all started that as well. So anyway. Let's see. What else? Did you get the note that what?
I got them all. No, I'm just playing with my images up here.
Okay.
I'm sure people are like, what the hell is going on?
Okay. Let's just see here about
people. All the people.
What about Sarah Huckabee Sanders?
Okay, this is a huge deal. This is my issue of the week, really.
Okay, good.
So for people who don't know, Sarah Huckabee Sanders,
who is the spokesperson for the administration.
Correct. Went to a restaurant over the weekend, and the restaurant owner asked her to hit the bricks. Mm-hmm. Tossed her out. The restaurant owner claims that they did this after A, taking a vote among the staff, and B, deciding that it would be too much of a disruption to have her around. Mm-hmm. Bullshit! That's a bunch of crap. We know it was because of her political affiliation.
Right.
But here's my take on this thing is it's up to the restaurateur. If they want to throw Huckabee Sanders out, man, they can chuck her out. Now, they suffer the wrath of the Yelp reviews. As you saw, the Yelp reviews went both ways.
Really both ways.
And that's fine. What they have done is they've announced that their restaurant customer base is basically the other people. Mm-hmm. So I hope those people are loyal and go in there and support them, or that people forget the incident, because it's lame. It's lame to throw somebody out based on political affiliation, to disassociate yourself with someone in any way because of their political association is weak, because we are in a country that prides itself on sharing ideas, political ideas, nasty, dangerous political ideas without recourse. In other countries, you get flogged or caned or something for sharing.
Not only that, we have peaceful transition.
Right now.
Right. But I'm saying, typically in other countries, they've had coups and everything else, murder to, the king and all that other kind of stuff.
That's it.
But not here.
We
for over 200 years.
Exactly. Transcended that, at least momentarily. And a big part of that is our ability to have open discussions. So to condemn someone as an individual and in every way, you're not even going to associate with them because they're part of the opposition is...
Well, as you said, the comments were 50-50 divided. I mean, there were people that said, I'm going to drive over there and have dinner there.
Right.
Because those are my kind of people. Apparently, they cater to the LGBTQ plus crowd.
Okay.
Something, or their wait staff does. Or so, I don't know. Apparently, there's an element of that. in the Red Hen or whatever it's called. But anyway, she was in there like 7 people or something, so they lost out on some money.
Right.
But again, that's the price you pay. And of course, there were a lot of people that said they were never going to go there again, and I say about 50-50.
Right.
So, probably
that's kind of a wash. But this bleeds into the bigger overarching issue, and that is: did you see what happened to Christian Nielsen over the weekend?
No.
Okay, so Christian Nielsen, or Kirsten Nielsen, whatever her name is, she is the director, the Homeland Security Director.
Okay.
She went to a restaurant.
A Mexican restaurant.
And was shouted out of there by the patrons.
Yeah.
Okay, now, this is a bit different. This is targeting someone specifically in a public place. Based on their association. This is worse than the owner doing it. This is the patrons doing it. Now, the patrons did get cleared out by the cops.
Okay.
And then she left after that. Then she went home. Guess what happened? The protesters went to her house.
Ooh!
Yes. And they stood out there and screamed at her with a megaphone at night at her home to keep her awake, and to shame her into changing the policy as if she can wave a magic wand and do it herself. She's the executive in charge of executing the law. She's not the one who makes the law.
Right.
If you don't like the law, go protest at the senators and representatives' houses. But don't do that. That's stupid and crazy and dumb and annoying and probably illegal, by the way, because this is disturbing the peace. She's not the only one that lives. It was a townhouse. So she's got neighbors right there. You're keeping all those people up. From my perspective, the group that did this protest at her house should have their butts sued back to the freaking Stone Ages. I mean, they should be slaughtered in court for this is disturbing the peace. This is tortious interference with your general welfare, your, peace and quiet enjoyment. And this is just horrible. And I mean, to me, it's probably criminal as well, because as they say, I guarantee you there's at least a civil statute against that kind of stuff.
Sure.
But this is another level of protests that we have not seen, whereby really violence is being condoned.
Yeah.
We're crossing a dark line, a bad line here, if they're willing to personally target administration officials and go after them in a way that prevents them from leading a normal life.
Well, it's interesting you bring this up because there was a former White House official in the Trump, I think it's in the Trump administration. But anyway, Stephanie Wilkinson had told, she was the owner of the restaurant, has certain standards, and she made why she kicked her out. But the other thing is, let me just see here. Walter Schaub, the federal government's former top ethics watchdog, said Ms. Sanders' response was a clear violation of federal law. The fact that she tweeted not her personal website, but she tweeted out on the tweet that's owned by
POTUS or something.
Yeah, POTUS, right? And on her at POTUS.com, whatever it was.
Right.
And so they said, this is for having done that, this was for her own benefit or something like that. And apparently there's a law that says, let's see, this is a reference to a law that stipulates government employees cannot use public office for private gain. And he states the law. It's called 5 CFR, whatever the heck it is.
Yeah.
Sarah, I don't care even a little tiny bit about the ethics rules, but using your official account is a clear violation of this particular law, he said.
Well, what benefit is he suggesting that she gets?
Don't know. I mean,
exoneration from a false accusation or something that's not a benefit.
I don't know. I don't know. She actually, I didn't copy the whole article.
Okay.
Because he claimed. I mean, this is weak linkage.
This is just like, okay, your assignment is to go after this woman no matter what happens. So she just got thrown out of a restaurant. So find a way to spin that against her.
Right. So anyway, yeah, this is the I don't know if it's for publicity or whatever, but she's apparently got a couple million followers, as you would expect, and but it's on her, on her UN.gov account.
I could see the restaurateur at least bringing up the concept that it's some sort of attack on the business. The problem is that the defense is truth. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's true.
As they say, she politely left,
right,
with her people, and then tweeted, "I've just been tossed out of so and so, or been asked to leave, or whatever it was." But again, we've talked about this before. Cakes, photos, whatever. You got a perfect right. You should have a perfect right. That's not a court offense. You have a perfect right to refuse. We reserve the right to refuse service to anyone, and that's just
exactly. What we don't want is Sarah Huckabee Sanders saying, "I'm in a protected class because of and I get to sue the restaurant."
Yeah, right. No, it's again, the market will take care of that.
Exactly.
That okay. Let's see here. Next item on the list here is you might want to do this one. Did you look at the highly anticipated decision released Friday? The U.S. Supreme Court updated Fourth Amendment protections for the digital era. Did you see that?
I did. So let me summarize for everybody here. The bottom line is, for the last few decades since the emergence of smartphones, your privacy has diminished immeasurably.
Right.
It is, if it was 100 in 1980, it is a 1 at this point.
Okay.
So the police have all sorts of cool toys, like this Stingray scanning device that they can plug your phone into when they stop you for anything, and basically download all of your information, everybody you've talked to, all of your conversations, and importantly for this particular case, everywhere you have been over whatever time period.
100 days. They went back 100 days.
And they could theoretically go back as far as the records are kept at the phone company. So, turns out there is a line of cases in the Supreme Court that basically supports the proposition that your location is somewhat private. You have some sort of privacy interest in where you have been. And you can, in some ways, protect that information. The court sort of extrapolated that into this protection for people now over their records that are being kept by their carrier or their phone company that basically display your whereabouts. For people who don't know, everywhere you go with your cell phone, every few seconds your cell phone is pinging the tower, the closest tower. What your cell phone is trying to find out the best way to communicate everywhere you go. So what it does, though, is those cell towers then keep track of everywhere that you've gone.
Right.
And they can basically create a map of where you've gone. That map is valuable for marketing purposes. They can figure out exactly what to pitch you, depending on if you drive by Target 6 times a day or whatever it is. So... but the courts, more importantly, have used this information, for example, in this case where the guy committed a bunch of robberies and then basically blabbed about, he confessed, implicated a bunch of his buddies, gave some of the cell phone numbers of his buddies. They went and got the records for the cell phone numbers for the buddies. And now the Supreme Court has said that, in fact, you have a privacy interest in your whereabouts to the extent that at least this guy, his records were obtained inappropriately.
Well, couldn't you just get a warrant?
You can, exactly. All you have to do is allege the correct Fourth Amendment standard.
Okay.
But they didn't do that in this case.
Right, they just went and got him.
Well, they got him through a court order, but it was pursuant to a statute which didn't consider the same standard that you would apply were you conducting a Fourth Amendment search, which is what the justices now say is implicit in this kind of a search.
It was a 5-4 decision, I think.
Yes. And you want to know who the...
Yeah, the dissenters were our conservative buddies.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, that was interesting.
Well, yes, and this goes to show you, this is one reason why I often like liberal judges, and it's because they are inclined to read some rights into some stuff, and that's what they had to do with this case. They had to extrapolate into the gray area a little bit on the side of basically your privacy rights. They've read into the word effects or something and given you some additional privacy rights, and it's pretty cool because it helps a little bit, at least.
Well, one thing is that some of the dissenter people were saying you really don't, you don't have that much privacy. If you go into a market and they come back later and they ask the cashier, "Were you there?" Of course, this could be disputed. Was so and so there? But I mean, they can. I don't know if they could, get a credit card information or something like that.
Yes, they can get all kinds of information.
And but you don't expect privacy in the market.
Right, and that's basically the opposing line of cases has said that, look, there are all kinds of market actors which gather and collect information about you, and you have no control over this information. You don't keep it, you don't make the information, you don't keep it, you don't control it, you can't do anything with it.
Right.
They have it all, so therefore you don't have any privacy interest in that
You
stuff.
have no expectation.
That's right. Well, this case begins to carve into that line of reasoning and basically suggests that you do in fact have privacy rights and stuff like your whereabouts, and so I think it's a nice little it's a foothold. I don't know how long it'll last.
No, I don't either. But it's interesting because the technology now this was like 8 years ago or something, or 6 or 7 years ago. Since then, of course, the technology has mushroomed.
Right, and
they've even gotten, I don't know what the case was, but they've got now where they can actually look through walls. With the infrared.
Man, it's going to get out of control so fast. That's the scary part from my perspective, from a criminal defense perspective, is they're going to know everything that everybody does all the time before it ever gets to the courts to be decided whether or not they could have taken the information correctly. So
they do. For instance, they do. It's interesting, like in London, which I think is the most CCTV in the world place. And they can basically track, wherever you have been from the old videos.
I heard that too, but then I hear stuff like there's this huge rash of knife attacks and things like that. And I'm thinking, how the heck can you not follow the person that did the attacking home, like you said, on the CCTVs everywhere? I don't know what parts of the city or country these attacks are in, but I've heard about.
Yeah. Okay, let's just see here. So that was the Supreme Court. Another item that came to my attention was, this is also another thing. Sea level rise driven by climate change is set to pose an existential crisis to many U.S. coastal communities, with new research finding that as many as 311,000, not 312, not 310, but 311,000 homes face being flooded every 2 weeks within the next 30 years. So, really?
Fake news. What a bunch of crap. What I love about this article is it contradicts itself. If you read it closely, at one point they say they predict 6.5 feet of sea level rise by the end of the century.
Oh, really?
But they also quote that the sea level rise right now is 3 millimeters per year, which comes out to 1 foot by the end of the century.
Okay.
1 foot by the end of the century is consistent with the last century and the century before that and before that. 3 feet is the alarmist global warming people. That's what they're saying is, now
we have to do something about it.
That's right.
But what's interesting is nobody can agree on what you do. I mean, it's never gonna happen.
Well, that would necessarily be a reason to not pursue some sort of agreement. That's just like saying, well, we haven't come to an agreement yet. For me, the perspective is they are skipping the part about the proof. Still, the people have that one guy created that one paper that said 97% of all scientists agree.
Right.
And that is like the fakest news story that could possibly be out there. If you read it closely, what he did was he first searched for papers using specific terms that he chose.
Okay.
So right away, you're in an unscientific area of it selects for itself. He chose papers with terms like global warming, in them, okay? Then he read the abstracts of those papers, not the papers themselves, the abstracts of those papers. And then he drew inferences from the abstracts, which later were shown to be wildly disproportionate from the contents of the actual papers. But he basically, his big statement was that 97% of these abstracts agree with the proposition that man may be influencing the climate. Okay? The difference between man may be influencing the climate in 97% of the abstracts that were self-selected versus 97% of the scientists agree that global warming is occurring is like 100 to 1. I mean, it's totally ridiculous. So that is obviously
the thing about it is that, first of all, you're not going to get 10% of the world to actually do anything about it, and it would be horribly expensive. Even if you went with the Paris Agreement and everything like that, still wouldn't correct the problem.
Right, and just for clarity's sake, the Paris Agreement was a bunch of crap. Okay, it's a non-agreement. Basically, all you have to do was pledge anything, and you were in the Paris Agreement. It was an agreement to agree in the future of the weakest kind, except for our part, which our part actually we had committed to some painful cuts in some areas. And although we pollute per capita twice as much as the next leading group, as a whole, our pollution contribution to the globe is minor. And so without the other major players participating, like China, whose agreement in the Paris Accord was something like, we will agree to continue to increase emissions up until 2030, at which point we will seek what methods to reduce emissions, which is a total non-agreement. That was their whole commitment. Without them on board, you get no effect on climate, no matter whose predictions or models you're after. So to me, that whole thing is a boondoggle. But then it just goes back to the proof that we just mentioned, which is the guy's own paper says sea level rise is only going to be 1 foot. If it's 1 foot, nobody has to worry about it. Nobody is worrying about it. I thought it was hilarious that the article suggested that the homeowners were acting irrationally by staying in their homes.
Okay. No, they're not.
No.
They have a choice. Everybody has a choice.
And it's like, and this is how you will know when the global warming is actually happening. When you see those shoreline home prices plummet, when you see that happen, then you will know it is going down.
And guess what? The market will fix it.
That is the market. That literally is the market.
Literally is the market. That's exactly right. Prices go up, prices go down. Speaking of prices go down, here's a quick aside. Bitcoin dropped below 6,000.
Yeah, I saw that on Friday.
But I think it went back up. I don't know.
Yeah, well, Bitcoin, just as an aside to your side, it still isn't supported by anything. So it is yet another currency that has no backing. Limited in its availability and ability to transfer easily. In and of itself, those two qualities don't create value. Gold is valuable because girls like it. It's just shiny rock.
Yeah.
And that's what people like. And so, it has its own intrinsic value. Bitcoin has no intrinsic value. So,
but even gold prices go up and down all over the place.
Well, up and down all over the place, but consistent over time. Bitcoin's only been around for 10 years.
That's true.
We'll see what happens in 100 years. Now, there are a couple of those cryptocurrencies which claim to be backed by something.
Really?
Yeah. And so the Oru coin, which is apparently a gold-backed coin. And so I'm curious to see if one of those will gain traction. Whether or not
I didn't even think about that. Okay, let me just see here. Got sea level rise, highly anticipated decision. And the last thing I have here is OPEC and allies, including Russia, will boost oil production starting next month, offering relief to consumers after Saudi Arabia secured a last-minute deal to overcome Iran's opposition. So the point is that oil prices have been going up a little bit. Mm-hmm. You probably have noticed that, and everybody's, of course, has been panicked that the price here in the States is like up to $3 or something like that per gallon. Of course, it's like double that in Europe. But the deal is that this might be some relief. And one of the reasons I think it might be a reaction to the frackers, because once a barrel of oil gets over about $70 or $75, if there's any hint that it's going to stay above there, then new sources come online that were not viable previously in the fracking industry. There, and the stripper wells and stuff like that, where the extraction cost is higher. And this is the way, of course, it is in almost anything, certainly in agriculture, any mining, any natural resource kind of stuff, is you get the least productive land can come into viability as the price rises, which is why we never run out of anything, as far as I can tell.
Right, and why nobody has to worry about our oil reserves or anything like that, because as soon as, like you said, as soon as the price gets above 60 or 70, our guys just come back online. Our production is massive in scale at this point. We're getting better. The technology is improving all the time. They don't want to bring us back online. They have a problem, because if they were to pump up the price to 100 and let it sit there for any length of time, our guys would get so efficient it would drop our price of extraction down to $50 a barrel or something. And
well, of course, like you say, if it got to be, one of the things that happens is, as the production costs are kind of linear going up, and so some of the fracking places, I would imagine, are only viable at $100 a barrel.
Right.
But I mean, there's some that are 99, 98, 97, all the way down to whatever it is. There's some fracking going on right now,
right?
Where it's viable even at the current price. So again, what would happen is those places would one by one come back online and intend to keep the price down. And what we saw before was, we had $140 a barrel of oil for, I don't know how many years ago this was.
That's not happening.
Not happening, right. So this is all the panic. And of course, we're always having we're going to run out of oil. This is what you're killing us. This is a resource. Fossil fuels are polluting everything, and they're going to run out. Well, then guess what? When they run out, guess what? They won't pollute anymore. End of story. So let's get on with it. Anyway, that's pretty much what I've got.
That's all you got there? Here, let me see. Let me see what I've got, if anything. I just wanted to say this show brought to you by United States Space Force.
Yes, the Space Force.
Join the Space Force.
We need
you too.
We need another. Somebody once said, Kennedy in '61 or whatever it was said, in this decade we're going to put a man on the moon and bring him back, which we did.
We're going to leave him there.
Yeah, we're leaving him there, right? So the deal is that now they're saying, in the next decade, we're going to have a Space Force.
What the
all
hell?
About military, this,
Get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
That's like, what are they thinking? Like Moonrakers up there?
Yeah, right. Right.
Come
it's
on, man.
Been done, James Bond. Okay,
right. No, I mean, I could see a team of scientists, but surely they already have that, right? I mean, surely...
We have a space station.
That's what I'm saying. How do you differentiate? It's not like there's going to be any space fighting.
No,
it's different.
It's not going to be the what was it in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? There was somebody had uttered a word and it carried across space, and these two warring fleets, the Hukbulk and the Vogons or whatever it was, decided where this utterance came from, and so they combined forces together and flew to Earth to destroy the source. And they said they made a slight miscalculation on their size.
Right.
And as soon as they got here, some dog ate the two fleets.
Right.
So this is a little size differential.
That'll probably happen. As a couple of little side notes, there was a pool party incident that was captured on the internet where the cops sort of roughed up some people at a pool party.
Oh, this is a long time ago.
Yeah. Girl settled for $150,000.
Okay.
So she's going to get a
college education.
Oh, yeah. Or a really good pool party.
Yeah, right. That's right. Yeah. Let's do that again.
That's right. And I think that's it. Hold on. Let's just see that Bitcoin. Yep.
I had the only other thing, which I didn't bring it over here, but in our local paper, we have the headline. Did I bring that over here? No, I didn't. The headline in this morning's paper, Sunday, was the Gainesville is trying to become the new city. One of the things they did in one of the Forbes or somebody ranked all the cities, or the cities over 50,000 or whatever, and we came in like 48th out of 50. And so now they're trying to redo this, and of course this article was all bells and whistles, and it was all, the picture on the front showed some people biking around and some of the goods, and they even showed a picture of somebody over here at our tent city, Dignity City for poor people. And but we've got like 20% people that are homeless in this area. They're going to do something. What's interesting is that when this article, all of the solutions are government run. And the question is, especially here, what has the government done ever that has been successful? Nothing. Zero. I mean, witness our biomass plant, which is just sitting there idle, which is costing us all, dollars and dollars on our, I mean, it's $1 billion mistake, essentially, 750 million or something like that. That's costing the taxpayer. They can't get anything right.
They educate our kids, keep the roads going, keep the buses running on time.
And I did see there was an article, a letter to the editor said, if you're going to do anything, would you please fix the roads first? And of course, they have let the roads go down. One of the things that the governments don't understand, at any level, is something called maintenance. They love to spend money, and they call it investing. But when you invest, you expect a return, and the only way, if you make a capital investment, one of the things that you have to do, no matter what it is, whether it's a barn building or a Caterpillar tractor, you have to also add in maintenance.
Well, not if you can just keep taxing.
Well, that's right. That's right, but you have to allow and of course what they do. What's interesting is, I forget, there was another article about raiding the Transportation Trust Fund, and the people here locally are all upset because Tallahassee is not giving us money to do some of these things. Well, it's not their job.
Well, there's a big money thing with the roads we should get into at some point with the one-way roads and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But for now, are there any specific things about the Gainesville Improvement Plan that you want to get into, or?
Well, no, not really. As far as the transportation is concerned, what they're really worried about is the east side of town, which is literally the other side of the railroad tracks, and has been forever, and still is, in spite of everything they've tried to do to bolster
the Depot Park area is looking a lot better now.
Yeah, that's a park. That's not business. They do have a Super Walmart, and they do have a Publix on Main Street. But other than that, there's no real economic activity. Sheriff's Department, big deal. But the fact is that they're trying to come up with some solutions, and one of the solutions
they do a lot of business at that
is they want
office.
to. Yeah, right. They one of the things that they came up with is we need to improve public transportation, and of course that means the bus system.
Well, close some roads.
Yeah, well, that's what they have done. They have narrowed them.
I know.
So that
well, that's what I get. That's what I say about the funding thing. If they make a road into a one-way road, they can certify a reduced traffic on that road, and it qualifies them for increased spending.
Really?
Yeah, that's why we get the one-way roads we get around these cities around Florida.
Really? I didn't know that. Increase, you mean you get government grants?
Yes.
Okay. Again, that's still our money.
That's part of what is the impetus for them narrowing these roads from 4 lanes down to 2 lanes and such.
And making them one way.
Right.
Yeah.
Or make them one way.
Yeah.
Or make them one way.
Okay.
And that's pretty.
Well,
crazy.
Speaking of transport, let me just finish up on this one note. Speaking of transportation, Governor Scott has now endorsed the high-speed rail from Tampa to Tampa to Orlando. And one of the things he said was originally we had been granted like $2.5 billion when he vetoed it before from the federal government. which of course, when you look at the high-speed rails around the country, they never succeed, and cost overrun and everything. Anyway, this one is supposed to be privately funded, and that'll be interesting to see. So they expect to make a profit.
We'll see.
Well, I don't know if we're going to see or not. I mean, the people that what happens if they go bust?
Then you sell it. You sell it off
to whom?
To somebody else who could theoretically make a profit because they're buying it at a
reduced. Well, somebody's going to lose their ass. That's for sure.
Well, sure, but that's like golf courses. We have a friend that whose father makes golf courses, and they routinely tell us the third person who owns the golf course is the one who makes the money.
Ah, I didn't know. That's right. That's interesting.
Yeah. So I would imagine it's probably the same. I could imagine a rail system between the major cities in Florida, Tampa, Orlando, Miami, sort of a triangle system that could be profitable because there's a huge amount of traffic that goes between those areas, and the roads are overloaded, and they could be theoretically manned, or theoretically it could be alleviated by a high-speed rail system. But as you say, I would wait for the private enterprise.
Yeah,
they'll figure out if it's cost-effective, and they will do it as soon as it's cost-effective, and not a moment before, not a moment after.
Well,
that's what the market does
right now. The I-4 corridor is like a giant parking lot.
It can be hideous. The same thing with the Miami situation. If you've got all those people traveling. The problem that I think they have a lot with Miami is you have people that are going from Maine to Key West on the same road that are going from the 7-Eleven to their house.
Right.
So if you sort of redirect the people who are going the long distances and make a hub here and there, I think that could be beneficial, but we'll wait and see.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's it for today.
We
shall be back on Wednesday at 4 o'clock.
Yes. Actually, I will say, I'll comment. One more thing Mrs. Jimmy wanted me to comment on. This is super quick. Rod Rosenstein, the acting attorney general, is...
federal.
Right.
Yeah.
And he is supposed to be turning over documents to the Congressional Watchdog Committee, the Oversight Committee, on his activities, run by Nunez.
Okay.
And Mrs. Jimmy is screaming at me, wondering why he is getting away with not turning over all the documents that have been requested of him.
Okay.
The answer is because the Department of Justice is a tactical organization, and the Congressional Committee is an operational policy committee. And so the twain are not exactly compatible. The tactical operations people may, and this is what he's asserting, rightly keep some of their tactics secret so as not to jeopardize the operation.
Right. Because
the congressional people have not been trained to properly keep the tactical secrets or something. And basically, the bottom line is he has an argument as to why to not turn over all the documents immediately upon request. Now, in his defense, he's turned over millions of documents, apparently.
Wow.
I know. And so you got to think of how big is the investigation that it's more than millions. But apparently that's what I read was the number, and that's large. So it's not like he's stonewalling them or anything. He is turning over lots of stuff, but he is keeping some things back.
Isn't it like par for the course when you ask the cops about anything? We never comment on ongoing investigation.
Well, yeah, but this is the Congress asking, and so
that's true.
You would think they would be able to know everything, and they are entitled to know everything, but there is some discretion that the prosecutors have, and that's what Rosenstein is.
I love to see when they do hand over papers, they're redacted. And
sometimes they can be...
you see the entire page is all black lines. Here's the papers, and you look.
That's right.
And you're looking at there's an A and there's a V.
I've gotten papers like that before, where literally the entire document is blacked out, and it's kind of funny. And you have to go back to the court, and that's what they're doing. There's always a give and take for discovery, which is kind of what this is. More like a discovery operation, where the other side is entitled to the documents, but there's still a referee, that being the judge, to determine exactly what stuff is supposed to be turned over. So,
well, it's interesting because all those people get their paycheck from the same outfit.
They do, but that doesn't mean that they're on the same side.
I suppose not.
They really can be opposites because they don't know who that paycheck writer is, and
that's true.
So far down the road. So.
Okay.
All right, that's all we got today.
So it'll be Wednesday, 4:00.
Yes.
We'll be back.
We shall.
And we're looking forward to see what kind of news. Oh, as we said, this should be a huge week for Supreme Court decisions.
Absolutely.
Because this is the last week in June.
Oh, okay. What do you know of any that are coming up?
No, I don't. But I think that they're supposed to be. Usually, they flood the right at the end of June is when they have all the ones that have been passed. Well, I mean, how many cases did they hear this year? 100?
I don't know if it's that many, but
80.
Yeah, I think it's around that usually.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see. We'll check into it and see if there's anything interesting in there. I didn't see anything terribly compelling or anything I wanted to alert anyone about. This one in particular gives you a little extra privacy, but nothing to hang your hat on. So.
No, you hang your hat up there, it's gonna fall over.
Yeah. So thank you for tuning in. Come check us out live sometime. We'll get this streaming thing working. So, thanks, guys.